Who the F Did I Raise? Mikey, age 9. If you're new to this series, Who the F Did I Raise? I would like to say it is inspired by the Risa Pisa series, Who the F Did I Marry, where she talked about her pathological lying husband, who may have some other diagnoses. And I have a similar story, except instead of it being a partner of mine, it's actually my son who did a lot of those things that she disclosed. Pathological liar, and he has several diagnoses as well. He's 18 now, but today's video is about Mikey when he was age 9. Now, mind you, he still had all of the behaviors that we discussed before. Mikey would steal, he would hide objects in his room. He still had a homicidal ideation against us. Mikey still was misbehaving in school. He was still doing things on the bus. He was still trying to harm his little brother, and he was still running away. However, his demeanor towards me did not change, which is why every time he had one of these behaviors, it was jarring because nothing triggered him. I said that to say for 2 months I was sick. When Mikey was about 9 years old, I would be sick for extended periods of time. And during this particular time that I'm talking about, there were spans where I had doctor's appointments every day, sometimes 2 doctor's appointments or procedures that I needed to get done, like endoscopies, colonoscopies, within a short span of time because my health was declining so quickly. And during this time, Mikey would come in from school and he would put his coat down, wash his hands. I would ask him how his day was, what homework he had to do, all while laying on the couch, because once I got home from work or once I got home from the doctor, I had no energy. It was really difficult for me to drive. It was difficult for me to stand for long periods of time. And my job was very understanding because I never missed work. So when I needed to take off work, there was no issue because I hadn't used PTO, I hadn't taken vacation or anything. Well, Mikey would come in and he would sit on the couch and he would say, "Lay your head on my lap, mommy." He would watch TV. He would rub my hair. He would bring me juice. He would bring me water. He would bring me things to drink so I can stay hydrated because I couldn't really eat during this time. Since my health was declining so rapidly, I had a lot of tests. Mikey would have to come with me to some of these tests and some of these appointments because I didn't have anyone to watch him. Quan would be at work or Quan would be coming with me, and we rarely left Mikey home alone because we may come back to Lord knows what. So he heard what the doctors were telling me, that there was something wrong. I was vomiting blood. Blood was coming out of other areas that it shouldn't have been coming out of. Also, little Jack was sick, so he had a lot of appointments to go to, and we just could not find respite from feeling ill, Jackson and I both. Quan didn't get sick during this time, and there's a very specific reason why. Well, we noticed when Mikey had to go inpatient, which is something he did often whenever he felt bored or he wanted a change in routine, or if he didn't get his way about something, he found a way to make himself go inpatient by stating that he had suicidal ideations or homicidal ideations, right? And because he presented with risk, they had to admit him. We noticed when Mikey was no longer in the home for those days and sometimes a week and a half to 2 weeks, our health started to improve. Not a whole lot, but enough for it to be noticeable. The nausea went away. Jack was able to eat more. I was able to get more rest. I didn't feel as fatigued. I was still not 100%, but I was at least at 50%, right? So I started to notice a pattern. When Mikey would come back home, he would insist on pouring my drinks and bringing it to me. And he would watch me intensely while I drank whatever it is that he brought me. So once I started to play these things back in my mind, I started to think this boy is poisoning me again, because he had done it when he was 8, but his behaviors were not the same as they are now. Well, I decided to clean house. The reason why Quan wasn't getting sick is because Quan didn't drink anything from Mikey, and he didn't leave any open containers or anything around the house where Mikey could get to it. I went through the house and emptied out all the juices, anything with liquid in it, pickle juice, olives, whatever we had in the refrigerator that had any type of liquid in it, any open water containers, we got rid of it. So when he returned from the hospital, we were very mindful and cautious about opening up containers, leaving them out, and then consuming them again. Instead of us doing that, if we forgot a container out and we didn't consume it, or if it was outside of our reach, just like if we were in a club, you pour it out, you get a new one. Yes, it was wasteful, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. I noticed when I started to do that, that our health did start to improve exponentially. The stress of all the situations that we were going through, the running away, the lying, being on the news, and all the other things, didn't really help with the healing process, but the nausea went away, a lot of it. I was still bleeding internally. I was still vomiting blood, but it wasn't as much. Well, I ended up having to get a colonoscopy and an endoscopy, and it showed the results. And because we had been poisoned over a long period of time, I ended up having 3 bleeding ulcers resulted from being poisoned. Jack also ended up very sick. He had a stomach full of mucus because the mucus built up in order to protect his vital organs from the poison that Mikey was using to make us sick. When that happened and Jack was in a position where he couldn't hardly eat, he couldn't use the bathroom, when Mikey left and Jack was able to go to the bathroom and relieve himself, it was just a toilet full of white mucus. It just looked like somebody took, I don't want to be too graphic, but it was just, you knew what it was. The nurse agreed, and we took samples to her and everything. And I discussed what Mikey used to poison us during that time in my book, Picking Up the Pieces to 100 Broken Promises by Yushima Cherry Burks, which is available in all major bookstores. It's available on Amazon and on Audible if you wanted to listen to the audio version of it. Well, anyway, I ended up having to get surgery for my bleeding ulcers. They had to patch that up. I still have issues from that period, even though it's been several years. I still have ulcers that come back when I get stressed, and I still have side effects from that. There's no side effects from Jack. Right after that happened, at this time, we still had services in our home, but Mikey was still there living his best life. He did admit to police officers, and not for the first time, that he had been poisoning us. Again, I don't want to say what he used on this platform because I don't want to give anyone any ideas, right? We just never know who's watching. But the details of this incident and more is in my book, Picking Up the Pieces to 100 Broken Promises. Have you ever had to deal with someone who meant harm to you and you still had to take care of them? It is literally an abusive relationship. It really is. And people really need to get real and start talking about their experiences with parenting difficult or neurodivergent children who are also violent. Be safe, you guys. Thanks for watching.